Get ready for an epic clash of quirks. What happens when Deku meets Toga Himiko? Let's find out. We see a 4-year-old boy with green hair who is very excited. Why, you ask? Well, it's because he's about to find out if he has a quirk, a special power that appears at age 4. He's excited because he wants to be a hero who saves people with a smile, just like his favorite hero, All Might. Izuku, Mom, do you think my quirk will be as strong as All Might's? The little boy asked excitedly. Inko, yes, my child, and it will be so strong that you might even surpass All Might, his mother said kindly, though she was nervous because neither she nor her husband had strong quirks. Reassured by his mother's words, the boy calmed down a bit and eagerly waited for the doctor to arrive with the results. After about 10 minutes, the doctor came out with some papers, making the boy burst with excitement. Izuku, doctor, do I have a strong quirk? Can I be a hero like All Might? He asked eagerly. The doctor, hiding a frown at the mention of All Might, replied coldly. Doctor, honestly, I don't know, kid. Your quirk is rare and unregistered. The tests show it gives you a bad headache when used, but this might change as you grow or if you become resistant to the pain. Unfortunately, we don't know exactly what it does, so it might be best to give up. The boy was confused and sad because he understood that the doctor told him to give up and that he couldn't be a hero. He turned to his mother, fearfully asking. Izuku, Mom, can I be a hero? He asked, his voice sad and eyes full of tears. Seeing her son cry, Inko hugged him and said. Inko, of course, my child. A quirk isn't born strong, you can make it strong. It's up to you how you use it, and if you want to be a hero, I'll support you all the way, she said with a big smile. Hearing his mother's words, the boy calmed down and smiled brightly. Izuku, yes, Mom, I promise I'll become the #1 hero, he said with great determination. After that, Inko signed the papers about her son's quirk, thanked the doctor coldly for making her son cry, and they left. At home, Izuku ran to his room and asked his mom to play his favorite video, which showed All Might saving people from an accident. Watching the video, he smiled widely and said to his mom. Izuku, Mom, I promise I'll be a hero as great as All Might, he said happily and determinedly. Inko, yes, my child, I know you will, she said with a comforting smile. Time skip. The next morning, we see a green-haired boy at school talking with a boy with ash-gray hair. Bakugo, so, Izuku, do you know what your quirk is? His friend asked doubtfully. Izuku, yes and no, Kachan, he replied calmly with a smile. Bakugo, explain, Izuku, Bakugo said, now even more confused. Izuku, well, the doctor said it's a power they don't have records of, and he doesn't know what abilities it gives me. But he said if I use it, I'll get a bad headache and that it's better not to use it, Izuku said, a bit sad but still smiling. Bakugo thought for a moment and then started laughing, mocking the green-haired boy. Bakugo, so it's basically like not having a quirk, he said arrogantly. Izuku stood still, listening to what his supposed best friend was saying. Bakugo, see, that's why you didn't say anything, because you know I'm right, he said with a superior tone. Izuku kept his head down, just listening. As Bakugo insulted him, several kids gathered, drawn by the shouting. Bakugo, from now on, we'll all call you Deku, which is another way to read your name and also means useless, he said selfishly. Everyone started laughing and insulting the green-haired boy. Izuku, well, if that's all you had to say, I'm leaving. It was a waste of time thinking you'd help me discover and control my quirk, he said seriously with a slight tone of disappointment. Izuku walked home, leaving everyone surprised as they thought he would cry or beg Bakugo to stop. Bakugo, coming out of his shock, turned to shout at Izuku, but it was useless, our protagonist was already gone. The next day, Izuku went to school, but as expected, he started suffering from not knowing his quirk, enduring teasing and sometimes even hits. The next morning, Izuku went to school like usual, but when he entered the classroom, Bakugo hit him in the stomach with an explosion, making him fall down in pain. Bakugo yelled, "Hey, stupid nerd, how dare you answer me back and leave me hanging yesterday?" He was clearly angry and hateful. Izuku got up and said, "Oh, it's you, Bakugo. I wasn't going to let you make fun of me just because I don't have a quirk." He spoke calmly but with a hint of anger. Bakugo was surprised that Izuku didn't call him Kachan as usual, but then he got even angrier and started hitting Izuku with his quirk. Izuku tried to fight back, but he wasn't strong and didn't know how to fight. Bakugo used his quirk, and Izuku ended up badly hurt. The fight continued until the teacher stopped them. Despite the beating, Izuku didn't lower his gaze or cry. He picked up his backpack, which had been thrown aside, and went to sit in his seat. This was how life was for our protagonist. At first, only a few kids, mainly Bakugo's gang, bullied him. Some thought Izuku might have a powerful quirk that hurt him because it hadn't awakened yet, but after months with no quirk appearing, those thoughts faded. Time skip, 2 years. Izuku left school a bit late because he was helping his teacher. He was very smart, aiming to train both his body and mind. For a 6-year-old, he had a strong body and the intelligence of a child 2 years older. After school, he went to a park to relax. While walking, he saw Bakugo and his gang bothering a blonde girl with pigtails who seemed to be his age. He ran to her and stood in front of her, speaking seriously to Bakugo. Izuku said, "Stop it, Bakugo. Can't you see she's crying? How scared do you have to be to pick on a girl with all your friends?" He was serious, making Bakugo and his gang angry. The girl was surprised and stopped crying, shocked that a stranger was protecting her. Bakugo responded angrily, "Stay out of this, DEKU. She's going to be a villain, and we're just preventing that." Izuku, still serious, asked, "Why do you think she'll become a villain?" Bakugo sneered, "That girl has a villain's quirk. It only activates when she drinks blood." The girl lowered her head, losing consciousness from her injuries. Izuku started laughing, and the girl feared he would mock her too. But instead, Izuku said, "That's why you're an idiot, Bakugo. Just because of her quirk, you label her as a future villain? Don't say stupid things. No matter her quirk, she decides who she wants to be. If she wants to be a hero, I'll help her." He was determined to help the little girl. Hearing this, the girl cried but with a smile before fainting. Bakugo growled, "Don't be stupid, DEKU. You think she can be a hero by drinking blood?" He began walking towards Izuku. Izuku replied with a smile, "Yes, I believe she can, and I trust she'll become a great hero someday." He also walked towards Bakugo. They started fighting, exchanging blows. Despite not having a quirk, Izuku had an advantage because he had trained in a fighting style that allowed him to attack and block Bakugo's strikes. Flashback. Izuku arrived home, greeting his mom, who noticed his bruises and asked what happened. He didn't lie and explained that his classmates bullied and hit him because he hadn't awakened his quirk. This angered Inko, and she asked if he wanted to learn martial arts to defend himself. "Yes, Mom, but which one?" he asked, confused. "How about Taekwondo? You use both your hands and feet to defend yourself," she suggested with a smile. That's how Izuku started training his body, mind, and Taekwondo. End flashback. After a tough battle, Bakugo was semi-unconscious, and Izuku was injured. Izuku, panting, said, "Give up, Bakugo. You can't beat me, and I hope you're not such a sore loser that you'll let your goons attack me." Bakugo spat out, "Damn you, DEKU. One day, I'll kill you, die." He threw one last explosion. Izuku barely dodged it, then turned to see Bakugo unconscious on the ground. He sighed and told Bakugo's friends, "Get out of here, take Bakugo, and don't come back." His serious tone scared the other kids. They quickly grabbed Bakugo and ran off. Izuku sighed again and approached the girl. Seeing her unconscious and hurt, he tried to help but was too exhausted to move. As a last resort, he tried to use his quirk, hoping it was a healing one. He focused hard, but nothing happened. Frustrated, he began to cry. "How can I be a hero if I can't save the girl right in front of me?" With one final effort, he placed his hand on the girl, praying for his quirk to activate. After a few seconds, his hands started to glow, filling him with joy as her wounds began to heal. However, the joy turned to indescribable pain, but he endured it to heal her. Tears of pain streamed down his face. Once he finished, he stopped using his quirk and immediately fainted. Previously, we saw the two children unconscious on the ground. After about 30 to 40 minutes, the girl started to wake up. The first thing she saw was the green-haired boy who had protected her. She was scared at first, thinking the kids who had been bothering her had hurt him badly. But when she looked closer, she saw he wasn't seriously hurt, so she calmed down. The girl decided to stay with the green-haired boy to take care of him and thank him for protecting her. After about 10 minutes, our favorite broccoli started to wake up. When the girl noticed, she approached him and, bending down, said, "Thank you." The boy, still a bit confused, remembered everything and smiled at her. "Izuku, don't worry, that's what a hero would do," he said with a gentle smile. Girl, but you got hurt because of me. She said sadly, lowering her head. Izuku, I told you, you don't need to worry. I'm not that hurt, just some scrapes and a bit tired. He said with his usual smile. Izuku, but forget about that. Why did they start hitting you? He asked seriously, still a bit angry. Girl, well, I was walking by and saw them playing, so I asked if I could join. They said yes, and we started playing. But then the gray-haired boy got bored and wanted to play heroes and villains. They asked about my quirk and, she stopped, afraid he might also make fun of her. Izuku, and? He asked, confused by her pause. Girl, promise you won't make fun of me? She said sadly, lowering her head. Izuku, of course, I promise, he said with a smile that reassured her. Girl, well, I told them my quirk, but then they started insulting me, saying I'd be a villain or that I was useless. I tried to walk away, but one boy started hitting me and using his quirk to make small explosions. She said, starting to shed a few tears. Seeing her tears, Izuku approached her. The girl closed her eyes, expecting a hit, but opened them when she felt the boy hugging her. She was surprised and started crying, hugging the little broccoli back. After a few seconds, Izuku let go, wiped her tears, and said, Izuku, don't worry, I won't make fun of you. He said with a smile that made the girl feel better. Girl, yes. Thank you, she said with a smile. Izuku, by the way, what's your name? He asked, curious since they hadn't introduced themselves yet. Girl, my name is Himiko Toga, and you? She said, looking away shyly. Izuku, my name is Izuku Midoriya. He said with a smile. Izuku, so, Toga-chan, what's your quirk? Our favorite broccoli asked curiously. Toga, my quirk lets me copy someone's appearance and voice, but I need to drink their blood to do it. She said nervously. Izuku, wow, that's awesome. If you were a hero, you could transform into an enemy to infiltrate and gather information. He said with stars in his eyes. This surprised the girl, who remained silent. Izuku, could you teach me? He said impatiently. Toga, coming out of her surprise, replied. Toga, but for that, I need to take someone's blood. She said, still surprised that Izuku hadn't insulted her. Izuku thought for a moment and said. Izuku, I know, wait for me a moment, Toga. He said with a smile. Toga just nodded her head as she watched the green-haired boy walk away. After about 5 minutes, Izuku appeared again, but this time he had a needle, which confused Toga. Toga, hey, Izuku-kun, why do you have a needle? The little girl asked with doubt. Izuku, since your quirk activates by drinking blood, I thought about giving you mine. He said smiling. After a few seconds, Toga understood what the green-haired boy wanted to do and stopped him because she didn't want the boy who defended her to get hurt. Toga, wait, Izuku-kun, you don't have to do that. I don't want you to get hurt because of me. She said, scared of what the green-haired boy was about to do. Izuku, don't worry, Toga-chan, I'm doing it because I want to see your quirk. He said, still with his characteristic smile. Toga, but still, just to see my quirk, I don't want you to get hurt because of me. She said, still scared. Izuku thought for a moment and said. Izuku, I know, what if we both do the same thing so you don't feel bad? He said, still smiling, our favorite broccoli. Toga, how? The little girl asked, confused. Izuku, you'll take my blood, and I'll take yours. Our favorite broccoli said with a smile. Toga had nothing to say, so she remained silent. Izuku, but let's do it, he said, making a puppy face as if begging the girl. Toga, well, but just this once. The girl said, still not very convinced. Izuku, great, he said, giving Toga a big smile. That's how they both pricked their fingers with the needle, drawing a bit of blood. Toga was the first to drink Izuku's blood. He got excited and told her to transform into him. Toga did it and surprised Izuku because it was true that her voice changed too. After that, Izuku also drank Toga's blood and said. Izuku, hey, Toga-chan, how do you activate your quirk? The little boy asked with doubt. Toga, well, I just imagine in my mind the person I'm going to transform into, and that's it. Why? The little girl asked, confused. Izuku, oh, nothing he. But at that moment, he looked at Toga and started to think about her, and without realizing it, he transformed into her. Toga was the first to notice that he transformed into her and, surprised, said to him. Toga, hey, Izuku-kun, Why did you transform into me? Is that your quirk? The little girl asked, confused. Izuku, huh? What do you mean, Toga-chan? The little boy asked, equally confused. When Toga realized that he didn't know what she was talking about, she took a small mirror out of her pocket and gave it to Izuku. When Izuku realized that he had transformed into Toga, he was also surprised and said to her, Izuku, I don't know what happened. The green-haired boy said, surprised. Toga, and it's not your quirk? The confused girl asked. Izuku, no, my quirk, from what I saw, allows me to heal people, which is why they didn't have any wounds. He said, still confused. The two of them stayed silent until Toga said, Toga, what if your quirk, besides healing people, allows you to copy quirks? She said a little confident in her answer. Izuku, well, we need to check it, let's go to my house. The green-haired boy said a little calmer. Izuku, hey Toga, how do you deactivate your quirk? The green-haired boy asked, confused. Toga, wait, don't do it. Let's go to your house first, and I'll tell you there. The girl said a little agitated. Izuku, why? The confused green-haired boy asked. Toga, because when I deactivate my quirk, my clothes disappear too, and I end up naked. She said, blushing and nervous. Izuku, I see, then let's go to my house. The green-haired boy said with a smile, but he was also blushing. But just as they were about to leave, the green-haired boy started to melt? That alarmed Toga, and without wasting time, she pricked her finger with the needle she had and put it in the green-haired boy's mouth. Izuku, Toga-chan, what are you doing? The green-haired boy said, very embarrassed. Toga, just think of me and transform into me. The little girl said, blushing noticeably. Izuku just did what Toga asked. After that, Toga calmed down a bit and said to him, Toga, I'm sorry, Izuku-kun, but that happens when my quirk is about to deactivate. You see, my quirk also depends on the amount of blood I ingest. The girl said, a little calmer but still blushing. Izuku, but why didn't it happen to you if we drank almost the same amount of blood? The confused green-haired boy asked, still blushing. Toga, I don't know, maybe because you copied my quirk, but it didn't adapt very well to you. The girl said nervously. Izuku just nodded and told her they better go to his house quickly before it happens again. So, the two of them headed to the green-haired boy's house, and when they arrived, they quickly went into his room without greeting his mother. But since his mother was watching TV, she didn't notice that they had arrived. Once in the green-haired boy's room, he asked Toga how she deactivates her quirk. Toga, I just think of myself again, and I return to my normal appearance. The girl said casually. Izuku, thanks, Toga-chan. Our protagonist said, equally relaxed. So, Izuku took some of his clothes and went to the bathroom, leaving Toga alone in his room. When he returned, Toga still had her gaze lowered and said to Izuku. Toga, well, I suppose you want to know why I got sad. The little girl said with a sad smile. Izuku, yes, but if you don't want to tell me, don't worry, I guess it's something serious. The green-haired boy said a little seriously. Toga, don't worry, Izuku-kun, I'll tell you, I need to let it out anyway. She said, now without the smile frown. Toga, you see, when my parents found out about my quirk, they started insulting me, saying the same things as the boy with the explosions, that I was useless, that I would be a villain, and that I would never be a hero. These past 2 years with them were torture until today when they abandoned me in an alley after beating me up again, but this time they had stabbed me. She started crying. Izuku stayed silent because he didn't know what to say, so he just hugged her. Feeling the green-haired boy's embrace, she began to cry heavily, which made the green-haired boy's mom worry and rush up to her son's room. Inko, upon reaching her son's room, was surprised to see her son hugging a little girl who was crying heavily and showed no signs of stopping soon. After a few minutes, Toga calmed down but continued hugging the green-haired boy until she noticed the presence of the green-haired boy's mother, causing her to quickly separate with a noticeable blush. Inko, hello, greeted the green-haired boy's mother with a smile. Izuku, upon hearing his mother's voice, nervously turned around and said to her. Izuku, hi, Mom. The green-haired boy said very nervously. Inko, well, tell me, are you going to introduce me to your friend? She said with a smile. Upon seeing his mother's smile, Izuku calmed down and said. Izuku, yes, you see, she's Himiko Toga, I met her at the park while I was walking. He said with a smile as well. Inko, that's great, son, that you made a friend. She said still smiling. Inko changed her expression to a serious one and asked. Inko, so, can you tell me now why she was crying? The green-haired boy's mother said, serious. Izuku and Toga became very nervous at that question, but with no other option, he told her everything that had happened with Toga, including the incident at the park. Inko was surprised and went to the girl. Since she didn't trust anyone besides Izuku, she just hid behind the green-haired boy. Izuku, don't worry, Toga, she's my mother, and even if you don't believe it, she's very kind. He said with a smile, calming Toga. Toga came out from behind Izuku and just closed her eyes out of fear, but opened them when she felt a big hug from the green-haired boy's mother. Inko, don't worry, little one, we don't judge people just by their quirks. She said with a smile. This made the little girl cry again, but this time tears of happiness, and she just thanked the two green-haired individuals. After everyone calmed down, Toga said. Toga, well, I think I have to go now, I don't want to bother you. The little girl said a little sadly. Inko, Toga, can I ask you something? The green-haired mother said with a comforting smile. Toga, yes, of course. The little girl said nervously. Inko, would you like to live with us? She said with a reassuring smile. Toga remained still at the question but said. Toga, no, thank you. I don't want to be a bother. The girl said with a forced smile. Inko, you're not a bother, you're my son's friend, and that makes you special. The green-haired woman said with her typical smile. Izuku, if Toga-chan agrees, besides, you have nowhere else to go, and our house is quite big, we can easily accommodate the three of us here. The green-haired boy said with a smile. Toga, I accept, but with one condition. The girl said nervously, not wanting them to think she was being opportunistic. Izuku, of course, what is it? The green-haired boy said with a smile. Toga, I want you to be my friend. The little girl said almost shouting. The boy was surprised by this and simply said. Izuku, we always were, Toga-chan. He said with a big smile. Toga, so, Mrs. Midorilla, could you let me live with you? The girl said with a smile. Inko, of course. But don't call me Mrs., call me Aunt Inko. She said with a smile. Toga, yes, and Inko. She said smiling and shedding a few tears. After this scene, the three of them hugged until Inko separated from them and told them to come down for lunch as the food was already ready. Izuku/Toga, yes, Mom/Aunt Inko. After what happened in the previous chapter, we see our new family sitting in the dining room while everyone is eating until little Broccoli remembered what happened in the afternoon and started to talk. Izuku, Mom, I woke up my quirk, said the green-haired boy with great excitement. Inko, really, Izuku? And tell me, what does it do? She said smiling, seeing her son happy made her happy too. Toga, can I call you Izuku-kun? She said smiling and eagerly. Izuku, well, but with one condition, don't call me Izuku-kun anymore, just call me Izuku. He said with a smile. Toga, okay, but only if you call me Himiko. She said with a smile too. Izuku, that's too long, I'll just call you Miko-chan, okay? He said smiling, waiting for his new friend's response. Toga, okay, then I'll call you Izu-kun, okay? She said smiling too. Inko, it's nice that you already have nicknames, but are you going to tell me about Izuku's quirk? She said with a smile and an anime-style sweat drop. Toga, yes, Izuku's quirk allows him to heal someone's wounds just by touching them, and it doesn't leave scars. She said smiling. Inko, wow, son, that's a very good quirk. She said surprised. Izuku, and not only that, Mom. He said with a proud smile. Inko, what? Do you have more than one quirk? She said confused. Toga, sort of, we believe his quirk allows him to copy the quirks of the people he heals. She said happily, surprising the older green-haired woman. No one said anything because Inko was processing the information received. Inko.exe has stopped working. Toga, noticing the moment of silence, continued explaining Izuku's quirk. Toga, like I said, we only believe, and we also don't know if copying quirks is permanent or only for a short period of time. Plus, he doesn't copy them perfectly, maybe his body needs to adapt to the quirk he gains. She said, hoping for a response from the green-haired boy's mom. Inko, wow, that's very surprising. She said happily with a big smile. Izuku, I know, Mom, but I want to check if I can really copy people's quirks. He said equally with a smile. Inko, And how will you do that? Asked the confused older green-haired woman. Izuku, this is going to hurt a lot because when I use my quirk, my head hurts a lot, see, he said trembling a little, the green-haired boy. Izuku, you see, Mom, you can make a small scratch, then I'll heal you, and when you wake up, we'll try if I can use your quirk, said the determined green-haired boy. Inko, well, but don't overexert yourself too much, Izuku, said the determined older green-haired woman. After that conversation, Inko went to the kitchen and brought a knife and made a small cut on her finger, and as they talked about it, Izuku went to heal his mother, but when he did, he started screaming, and when he finished healing her, he fainted. Inko and Toga just limited themselves to taking the green-haired boy to his room to rest and recover. After leaving the green-haired boy in his room, Inko went down to the kitchen again, but Toga said she wanted to stay and take care of the little broccoli. Inko just smiled and told her okay, but to let her know when he wakes up, to which Toga happily agreed. About 20 minutes later, Toga began to feel the green-haired boy waking up, so she went to the kitchen to inform Inko. Then we see the two women going up to the green-haired boy's room. Upon arrival, they saw the green-haired boy getting up from his bed, and they said to him, Inko, son, how are you feeling? She said a little worried about her son. Izuku, I'm fine, Mom, don't worry. The green-haired boy said with a smile. Toga, are you sure, Izuku-kun? Does anything hurt? She said a little calm, but she was still worried. Izuku, yeah, don't worry, I'm fine he. Well, changing the subject, Mom, how do you activate and control your quirk? He said a little excited. Inko, feeling more relaxed, began to explain her quirk, which was telekinesis. In the anime, it doesn't just allow her to move small objects, but the heavier the object, the faster she gets tired. Inko, well, my quirk is telekinesis, and it activates when I think about moving something, she said calmly. Then Izuku began to concentrate, and after a few seconds, one of his All Might toys started to float, making Izuku have a big smile because his quirk was very powerful. Toga, wow, that's amazing. You can copy people's quirks when you heal them, but in contrast, I can only transform into another person, she said with a smile but with a slightly sad tone. Izuku thought for a while until he came up with an idea. Izuku, what if we try something with your quirk? He said with a smile that confused Toga a little. Toga, like what? She said a little confused. Izuku, you see, your quirk only activates when you drink other people's blood, but there are quirks that allow changing appearance just by thinking about it. So, what if your quirk also lets you use the quirks of the people you transform into because you somehow ingest their DNA? He said a little nervous because if it didn't work, Toga would be sadder that her quirk was inferior to a normal transformation one. Toga thought about it because it could be true, and with a smile, she said. Toga, yes, but what if nothing happens? She said a little happy but still with her sad tone. Izuku, if it doesn't work, it's okay, your quirk is great. He said with a smile, also making Toga smile. Inko, then take a bit of my blood and try to use my quirk, she said with a maternal smile. That's how Inko made a small cut on her finger and gave Toga some of her blood. Toga, after drinking Inko's blood, transformed into her and nervously tried to make another of Izuku's toys float, which, to everyone's surprise, worked, and another All Might toy started to float and move toward her. Toga, coming out of surprise, just started shedding small tears of happiness because her quirk didn't turn out to be as useless as she thought. Izuku, you see, Toga, your quirk is great, he said with a big smile as he walked towards her. Toga stopped crying when she saw her friend approaching her, she hugged him while smiling. Two of them are smiling. Toga, yes, thank you, Izuku-kun, she said, still hugging Izuku. Inko, alright, everything's fine, but Izuku, finish your meal, and Himiko, I'm going to bathe you so you can go to bed, she said with a smile but with a slightly ominous aura. Izuku/Toga, yes, they said, startled, and rushed to do what the older green-haired woman said. Toga was already taking a bath, and Izuku was in the dining room with his mother. Izuku, hey mom, where is Miko-chan going to sleep? We only have 2 rooms, he said with a tone of uncertainty. Inko, well, she'll sleep with you until we can arrange a room for her, she said while sipping some juice. Izuku, it doesn't bother me, but we should ask Miko-chan, he said with a smile. After a few minutes, Toga finished bathing and went to the dining room to ask the same question Izuku did. Toga, Aunt Inko, where am I going to sleep? The little girl asked with uncertainty. Inko, well, I was thinking you could sleep with Izuku until we fix a room for you. She said, thinking a bit. Toga, well, I don't mind, but should I ask Izu-kun? She said, still with doubt. Inko, yes, and he said there was no problem. She said with a friendly smile. They're 6-year-old kids, don't think wrong just because they're going to sleep together. That's how the day ended for our protagonists, the 2 kids sleeping in the same room while Inko slept in hers. The next day, Saturday. We see Toga just waking up, and the first thing she saw was that it wasn't a dream and she really had a new family. Unable to contain her excitement, she shed a tear that fell on Izuku because the 2 had fallen asleep hugging each other, and this made the little broccoli wake up and look at Toga with his teary eye. Izuku, Miko-chan, what's wrong? Did I hit you while sleeping? He said, apologizing. Toga, it's not that, don't worry, Izuku-kun, it's just that I'm happy to really have a new family. She said, wiping her face. Izuku, hee hee, I'm glad you're happy, I'm happy too to have a new friend. He said with a big smile. After that, the 2 got up and changed, Toga wearing Izuku's clothes, and went down to the kitchen for breakfast. Seeing that there was nothing because Inko hadn't gotten up yet, the 2 tried to cook, but as you can imagine, they burned the water greater than sea. Inko got up smelling smoke, scared, she went to the kitchen, but what she saw made her angry because she saw the 2 kids burned everything, but then she laughed because the 2 little ones had their faces blackened. How it happened, I don't even know XD. The 2 kids, hearing the laughter, turned to see Inko, they got nervous and started shaking and apologizing. Inko, well, you 2 are going to clean all this up, and I promise not to get mad. She said with a smile. Toga/Izuku, yes, they said with a military pose. After that conversation, threat, the 2 kids cleaned the kitchen and went to Inko to tell her they were done. Toga, Aunt Inko, we finished cleaning the kitchen. She said tiredly. Inko, well, now the 2 of us are going to buy clothes for Himiko, so go get ready, okay? She said smiling sweetly. Toga/Izuku, yes, they said as they went to the green-haired boy's room. Time skip, 1 hour we see 2 green-haired kids and a blonde in the shopping mall entering a children's clothing store. Inko, alright, Himiko, go pick out some clothes, meanwhile, Izuku and I will wait for you over there. She said, pointing to a bench to rest. Toga, okay. She said happily as she left. I'll skip the shopping part because I couldn't find little Toga in anything other than a uniform. After buying clothes for Toga, they left the mall and headed to Izuku's school. Izuku, Mom, why are we going to my school? He said a bit confused. Inko, to enroll Toga so she can be in your class. She said with a smile. Toga, yes, that way I can be with Izu-kun all day. She said with a smile. After that, the 3 went to Izuku's school, and after a talk with the principal, they managed to enroll Toga in the school and put her in Izuku's class. After enrolling Toga in Izuku's school, they went to buy the school uniform and then went home to rest. On Sunday, they only watched movies XD. Monday. We see Izuku waking up and staying still until he remembered it was Monday and time to go to school, so he quickly woke up Toga and told her they needed to have breakfast. Toga, please, Izu-kun, let me sleep 10 minutes more. She said, covering herself with the blankets again. Izuku, okay, but I'm going to eat your breakfast. He said as he went down to the kitchen. Upon hearing that, Toga got up as fast as she could and went down to the kitchen, but as Izuku had said, she saw him halfway through eating her breakfast. Toga, Itsu-kun. She said with an intimidating aura behind the green-haired boy. Izuku slowly turned around and saw Toga with a smile in the aura, and before he could say anything, Toga gave him a playful slap. But before Toga could continue hitting him, he said. Izuku, wait, Miko-chan, it was a joke. I saved your food, it's in the microwave. He said with a tear and rubbing his head. Toga, thanks, she said with a smile. After that comic scene, we see Izuku and Toga waiting for the school bus. When it arrived, they got on and sat at the back, chatting until. Extra, hey girl, what's your name? He said with a smile. Toga, well, my name is Himiko Toga. She said, still smiling, but continued talking with Izuku. Extra, why are you with that useless guy? Come with us, I guess you're new. He said with a slightly arrogant smile. Toga, no thanks, Izu-kun is my friend. She said, smiling, but with a slight tick because he called Izuku useless. Nobody did anything as they were on the bus and couldn't do anything. But when they arrived at school, Bakugo and his friends were waiting for the green-haired boy because they hadn't forgotten the beating he gave Bakugo on Friday. Meanwhile, Izuku and Toga were getting off the bus and didn't notice the explosive boy's presence and walked past him. Bakugo, seeing that Izuku ignored him, shouted. Bakugo, "Hey, Deku, who do you think you are to ignore me?" he said in his usual tone. Izuku, huh? Oh, hi Bakugo, sorry, I didn't see you, I was talking with Miko-chan. But well, if you don't have anything else to say, then I'll go, come on, Miko-chan. He said with a smile. Toga, yeah, I'm coming, Izu-kun. She said, also with a smile. Bakugo, ha ha ha, I see you've made friends with the villain. It makes sense for you two useless guys to be friends, ha ha ha. He said, hoping to provoke the green-haired boy. Upon hearing that, the green-haired boy stopped and went towards Bakugo without saying a word. Bakugo, what's up, damn nerd? Does it make you angry to hear the truth? He said with an arrogant smile. Izuku was already in front of Bakugo and, still without saying a word, in a quick movement, he punched Bakugo, causing him to fall backward. Izuku, look, Bakugo, I already told you on Friday, she can be whatever she wants, and besides, her quirk isn't useless, on the contrary, it's very interesting because she can use the quirk of the person she transforms into. He said, looking at Bakugo with anger. Bakugo, oh? Still, isn't her quirk better than mine? Besides, to use her quirk, she needs to drink blood. Tell me, who is she going to transform into if she has to hurt someone to make her quirk work? That's not very heroic, is it, Deku? He said with an arrogant smile. Izuku, well, I'll give her my blood so she can use my quirk. He said bluntly, with a determined look. Upon hearing Izuku's words, Toga approached him and hugged him from behind, saying, Toga, thank you, Izu-kun, but let's go, it's not worth it. She said, giving him a big smile. But before Izuku could respond, all the kids started laughing at him. Extra, but it's useless, your quirk hasn't even awakened yet, so I doubt it's of any use. And so they began insulting the green-haired boy until Toga started laughing. Toga, ha ha ha, Izu-kun's quirk is the best. Besides healing people, his quirk allows him to copy the quirks of the people he helps, a quirk worthy of a great hero. She said mockingly towards the extras. Everyone fell silent as they didn't expect Izuku's quirk to be so good, but one extra started to say. Extra, liar, that useless guy's quirk can't be great, they just made that up so we don't bother Izuku. He said, starting to laugh. But everyone quieted down when they saw Izuku and Toga's backpack starting to float. Izuku, well, Miko-chan already exposed me, so there's no need to hide my quirk. This is my mother's quirk, I copied it on Friday he said with a slightly mocking smile. Everyone fell silent, but the same extra said. Extra, well, maybe that's your quirk, and that's it. You can't heal anyone, let alone copy quirks. Izuku, well, wait. He said while searching for something in his backpack. The extra just stared at the green-haired boy with confusion. Izuku, well, if I brought it. He said as he showed a needle. Everyone was confused, wondering what he would do with the needle. Izuku, Miko-chan, can you help me? He said, looking at Toga with a smile. Toga, okay, but then you have to call your mom to bring you a new uniform. She said calmly. Izuku, yes, he said with a big smile. Everyone was even more confused, just watching, but their eyes widened when they saw Toga prick her finger with the needle. Toga, here, Izu-kun. She said as she handed him her injured finger. Izuku, thanks, Miko-chan. He said as he began to drink the blood. Everyone was a little disgusted, but they were surprised to see Izuku transform into Toga. Izuku, this is Toga's quirk he said with a mocking smile. Everyone fell silent as Izuku had proven he wasn't lying. Izuku, well, if you have nothing else to say, I'm going to the principal's office, I need to talk to my mom. He said as he walked with Toga. After that scene, they didn't bother Izuku anymore, and classes went on as usual because most of them already knew that Toga was a new student, so they weren't surprised. We can see Toga and Izuku on the bus chatting as they were heading home until the bus abruptly stopped, worrying everyone. Izuku just approached the driver and asked what happened. Driver, Joselito, well, I hit someone, we need to call an ambulance quickly. He said very concerned. Izuku, can you open the doors for me? I have a quirk that allows me to heal wounds, I can help. He said with a smile. Joselito, well, but I'll come down with you. He said a bit unsure. Toga just watched Izuku with doubt as she stayed behind and didn't hear the conversation Izuku had with Joselito until she saw Izuku about to get off the bus, and quickly she ran to accompany the green-haired boy. As Izuku got off the bus, he saw a man in front of it who seemed to be injured, but he had a neutral expression. Izuku was curious and asked. Izuku, sir, does it hurt? You seem injured. The green-haired boy said curiously. Man, hello, little one, don't worry, it doesn't hurt because of my quirk, which is pain nullification. It's a bit useless sometimes, but in cases like these, it's very comforting to have. He said with a smile. Izuku, wow, that's an amazing quirk. Oh, excuse me, my name is Izuku Midorilla, and I'm going to heal you, but now I also want to ask for your permission to copy your quirk. He said as he clasped his hands together as if he were praying. Man, what? You can copy people's quirks? He said very surprised. Izuku explained what his quirk consisted of, including the headache it caused him to use it. Man, wow, that's very impressive, kid, and of course, you can copy my quirk, but when you become a hero, give me your autograph. He said with a big smile to Izuku. Izuku, yes, sir, thank you very much. He said as he approached the man. Toga, wait for me, Izu-kun, you're going to faint because of the pain, so I'll carry you. She said with a smile. Izuku, yes, thank you, Miko-chan. He said with a big smile. If you're wondering why the man endured so much without dying, well, even I don't know. So Izuku began to heal the man, enduring the pain it caused him, but when he finished, he couldn't take it anymore, he let out a loud scream and fainted. Joselito, hey girl, will the little one be okay? He said worriedly. Toga, yes, don't worry, he just fainted from the pain, he'll wake up in 20 minutes. Man, wow, the kid's quirk is amazing, I don't have a single scratch left. He said with a surprised expression. Toga, yes, I know, Izu-kun is great. She said with a big smile. Toga, well, can you help me carry Izuku inside the bus? Joselito, yes, of course. He said, carrying Izuku onto the bus. Toga, goodbye, sir, and thank you for letting Izuku copy your quirk. She said as she got on the bus. Man, no problem, and remind him that he owes me an autograph. He said with a smile. After that, we can see how Izuku was unconscious in Toga's lap as she was taking care of him. When they arrived at the green-haired boy's house, he miraculously woke up just as the bus stopped. Toga, hi, Izu-kun, it's good that you're awake, I thought I'd have to drag you. She said teasingly. Izuku, ha ha ha. He said sarcastically. After that, the two got off the bus and headed home. When they arrived, they told everything to the older green-haired woman, including about his new quirk. Inko, wow, that's amazing, now your quirk has no weaknesses. She said, still surprised. Izuku, yes, but I want to test if the quirk works since the man told me that this quirk doesn't deactivate, it's like a mutation quirk. He said with a smile. Toga, so, are you going to heal my finger? She said with a tone of doubt. Izuku, yes, that's what I had planned. He said with a smile. So Izuku began to heal Toga, and to his surprise, it worked, she didn't faint or feel any pain. Izuku, great, it works. He said very happily, hugging Toga and his mother. Inko/Toga, yes, it's amazing, son/Izu-kun. They said, accepting the hug. And so ended a Monday for our protagonists, he gained a new quirk that solved his biggest problem. After what happened in the previous chapter, it's been a few years, 5 years. During this time, they've only focused on improving their taekwondo skills. Also, Toga can now erase her presence, as seen in the licensing arc when she transformed into Kami. She didn't tell Izuku about this because she wanted to surprise him, thinking he was much more powerful. However, that wasn't true. Although Izuku can copy others' quirks, he doesn't do it without permission. This is why he hadn't copied any villains' quirks. But he discovered that by healing people, he can see and even alter their memories. Flashback. We see Izuku and Toga sitting at a table, chatting while waiting for Inko to finish cooking. Izuku, that's why I haven't copied any quirks. I'd feel bad just taking them without asking. He said, scratching his cheek with a smile. Toga, yeah, but, she couldn't finish because they heard a scream from the kitchen. The two kids quickly went to the kitchen and saw Inko with a deep cut on her hand. Toga, Aunt Inko, are you okay? she asked, sounding concerned. Izuku just approached his mother with a worried look, saying nothing. Inko, I'm fine, Himiko, just got a little distracted. She said with a smile, though she looked pained. Izuku, you should be more careful, Mom. What were you thinking about? He asked, standing in front of her. Inko, it's nothing, Izuku, don't worry. She said with the same smile. Izuku started healing her but wondered, what's bothering Mom? He was surprised to see some of her memories, including what she was thinking while cooking. After finishing, he looked her in the eyes and said, Izuku, Mom, you don't have to worry about that. I swear your friend doesn't hate you just because of that. He said with a slightly teasing smile. What Izuku saw was a work friend getting mad at Inko for stealing her lunch. Inko stayed quiet for a moment before asking. Inko, how do you know, Izuku? Looking surprised. Izuku, honestly, I don't know. While I was healing you, I was thinking about what could be distracting you, and some of your memories just came to me. He said with his usual smile. Inko, well, that's surprising and a bit spooky. She said, trembling slightly. Izuku, why spooky? He asked, confused. Toga, because being able to see someone's memories or thoughts is a bit scary, knowing you can't have privacy. She said, also trembling a bit. Izuku, yeah, but you both know I wouldn't use it that way. He said with a smile. Toga, I know, but please don't read my memories. She said, still trembling as she didn't want him to know she was in love with him. Izuku, don't worry, Miko-chan, I'd never do that to you or Mom, so could you stop trembling? It's making me nervous. He said with a smile and a sweat drop anime style. After everyone calmed down, they sat at the table to eat and started a new conversation. Toga, hey, Izuku-kun, how will you heal someone without seeing their memories? She asked while eating. Izuku, well, I hope I can choose whether to see memories or not, but I believe I can do it, just like using quirks without copying them from someone. He said, taking a sip of juice. Toga, then it's not as scary if you see it that way. She said with a smile. After that, Izuku trained his quirk and discovered he could modify memories. I'm too lazy to do another flashback XD. End flashback. After that explanation, we see Izuku and Toga leaving their school and walking home while chatting about trivial things. They noticed several people gathered on a bench, curiosity got the better of them, and they went to see what was happening. To their surprise, it wasn't an event but a villain attempting to rob the bank. They approached and realized the heroes weren't intervening because the villain had a hostage, and to their horror, it was none other than Inko. Izuku, Mom, he stuttered, scared. Toga remained silent, looking down. Izuku, why aren't the heroes doing anything? He asked, looking at a hero who wouldn't let them get too close. Hero, well, his quirk is powerful, and he has a hostage. Our options are limited. He said, a bit saddened by his inability to help. Izuku kept staring at his mother, growing more worried by her frightened expression. Unconsciously, he started walking towards the villain. Hero, hey kid, come back, it's dangerous, he said, concerned for the broccoli-haired boy. Villain, ha ha ha, what are you doing, kid? Lost your way? He mocked, pointing his gun at the green-haired woman's head. Seeing this, Izuku activated his mother's quirk without hesitation and swiftly disarmed the villain. The villain, realizing his weapon was now aimed at him, let go of Inko and tried to grab his weapon back, but Izuku had it now. He tossed the gun to the hero and prepared to fight. Izuku, Mom, can you step back a bit? Don't worry about me, I'll be fine. He said with a smile. Inko, wait, Izuku, it's dangerous. Leave it to the heroes and, she couldn't finish because she was surprised to see the villain collapse unconscious. Izuku, wait, what happened? He said, confused. Toga, it was me, Izu-kun. When I saw he was distracted, I snuck up and gave him a solid blow to knock him out. She said with a smile, pulling out a small blade. Izuku was surprised, he hadn't even noticed when Toga moved. But seeing her with the blade, he approached her. Izuku, I know what you're going to do, Miko-chan, just don't kill him. He said as he approached Toga. Toga, yeah, Izu-kun, don't worry. She said with a smile. Everyone was confused, even the heroes, as two kids had done the job. But they snapped out of it when they saw Toga start stabbing the villain with the blade while saying, Toga, this is for messing with my family. She said, stabbing the villain with each word. The heroes snapped out of their trance and moved to stop her, But Izuku held them back and said, "Izuku, don't worry, everything will be fine." He said with a nervous smile. "Hiro, how can everything be fine when that girl is stabbing the villain?" He said, agitated and angry. But when they looked back at Izuku, he was no longer there, and they watched as he approached the villain. Thinking he was going to do the same, the heroes tried to stop him, but they were stunned to see Izuku start healing the villain. "Izuku, well, I guess you've vented enough, right, Miko-chan?" he said as he healed the villain. "Toga, yeah, Izu-kun," she said with a smile as she ran the blade across his face. Everyone stayed silent until Izuku spoke again. "Izuku, well, heroes, here's the villain, take him," he said, pointing at the villain. "Hiro, but we have to arrest your friend for stabbing him," he said, still surprised by the scene. "Izuku, well, I don't think you should. She saved my mom and knocked out the villain to prevent more victims," he said with a smile. "Hiro, we'll let it slide this time, but don't let it happen again. You shouldn't expose yourselves to such dangers," he said with a serious face. "Izuku, well, it won't be possible. If I want to be a hero, putting people's lives before mine is essential to learn," he said with a big smile. Everyone fell silent again until they heard some applause and words praising the green-haired boy. "Izuku, well, thank you all. But could someone tell me what quirk the villain had? Since he didn't use it, I'm curious about what it was," he said confused. "Hiro, well, according to what he told us, his quirk was called aerokinesis, which allowed him to control the air," he said, now calm. "Izuku, well, that's a very interesting quirk, thanks," he said with a smile. "Inko/Toga, Izuku/Izukun, we're leaving, come on," they shouted in unison to the green-haired boy. "Izuku, yeah, coming," he said as he bid farewell to the heroes. Time skip. We see Izuku, Toga, and Inko at the table while having dinner in a comfortable silence for Izuku and Inko, but the opposite for Toga. "Izuku, hey, Miko-chan, are you okay? You seem a bit tense," he said, worried about his friend and love interest. "Toga, yeah, don't worry, Izuku-kun," she said with a nervous smile. "Inko, honestly, Himiko, you don't seem very relaxed. Is it because of what happened this afternoon? Are you worried about how I'll see you from now on?" she said with a serious face. "Toga, yeah, honestly, I just don't want you to forget me because of my behavior," she said with her gaze lowered. Inko just started laughing, which puzzled Toga as she looked at her confused. "Izuku, well, actually, my mom already knew you liked seeing people hurt," he said with a smile. Toga, wait, how? She said, very confused. Inko, well, one day when I was bringing you guys some snacks, I saw you hurting Izuku. At first, I was scared and wanted to intervene, but when I saw Izuku wasn't doing anything and had a smile, I just left and waited for you to finish. She said with a smile. Izuku, then she interrogated me, and I had no choice but to tell her everything. He said, trembling at the memory of his mother's threat. Toga, so there's no problem with my behavior? She said, scared but calmer. Inko, of course not, especially since how could I be mad at my son's love interest? She said with a teasing smile. After those words, Izuku and Toga blushed universally, and quickly Izuku got up and said, Izuku, well, I'm going to the beach to test out the new quirk I copied from the villain. He said nervously and very flushed. Toga, can I come with you, Izu-kun? She said, playing with her hair to hide her blush. Izuku, why yeah, of course, Miko-chan. He said as he headed for the door of his house. Inko, don't stay out too late. She said with a teasing smile as she watched them leave. Outside the house, Toga and Izuku were heading to the beach in a slightly awkward silence. When they arrived, Izuku simply said. Izuku, well, Miko-chan, I'm going to train over there. He said, pointing to a clean spot on the beach as there was a lot of trash around. Toga, yeah, Izu-kun, I'll wait for you here. She said, still smiling but blushing. After that brief conversation, Izuku spent 30 minutes practicing his new quirk while Toga watched and pondered if Izuku really liked her. However, she was snapped out of her thoughts when she heard Izuku calling her. Izuku, Miko-chan, come see this. He said, looking at the sea. Toga, sure, coming, Izu-kun. She said with a smile. Standing beside Izuku, she asked him. Toga, so, Izu-kun, what am I looking at? She asked with uncertainty. Izuku, look, the moon looks beautiful tonight. He said, pointing at the moon. Toga, yeah, it's really beautiful, indeed. She said, gazing at the moon. Izuku, hey, Miko-chan, forget what my mom said. Sometimes she just says those things to tease. He said without taking his eyes off the moon. Toga, yeah, you're right. Besides, who would fall for a girl who enjoys seeing people hurt? She said, lowering her gaze. Izuku, don't say that, Miko-chan. You're a very lovely and amazing girl. Despite the world telling you that you would become a villain, you never gave up and pursued your dream of being a hero. He said with a smile and a slight blush. Toga, gathering courage and sighing deeply, said. Toga, if I'm so great, then why don't you fall for me? She said, looking him in the eyes with small tears and a deep blush. Izuku, upon hearing that, simply remained silent, stunned and unsure of what to say. Toga, Izu-kun, the truth is, I've liked you since we were kids when you defended me without even knowing me, and then you helped me with my quirk and even gave me a new family. That's why I fell in love with you. She said as she hugged Izuku, hiding her face in his chest. But Izuku said nothing, just stood there motionless, which made Toga shed tears, thinking he didn't feel the same way. Toga, I see. Sorry, Izu-kun, let's just forget this silly conversation and go back home. She said with a smile, but tears were streaming down her face. Toga watched as Izuku approached, closing her eyes, thinking he was going to reject her, but she quickly opened her eyes when she felt Izuku kissing her. Izuku, Miko-chan, to be honest, I like you too. You've always supported me, even when my quirk seemed useless. You always encouraged me not to give up, and that's why I still want to be the best hero. For that and more, I fell in love with you too. Toga just stared at Izuku, but when she regained consciousness, she cried tears of happiness and quickly kissed Izuku, to which the broccoli-haired boy responded. Izuku, so, now we're, he said, being interrupted by Toga. Toga, boyfriends, she said, almost shouting with joy as she hugged and nibbled on the green-haired boy's neck. Toga, boyfriends, she said, almost shouting with joy as she hugged and nibbled on the green-haired boy's neck. Izuku, Miko-chan, why did you bite my neck? He said, touching his neck where Toga bit him. Toga, well, it's so everyone knows I'm your girlfriend. She said with a big smile. After that scene, Izuku and Toga returned home, but this time holding hands. When they arrived, they were greeted by Inko, who had a big smile. Inko, wow, you're already a couple? She said as she noticed the bite mark on her son's neck. Toga, yes. Although I had to confess first. She said, pouting a little. Inko, wow, Izuku, what a coward. I thought you were the one who had the courage to confess. She said with a teasing smile. Izuku, I'm sorry. He said, lowering his head. Toga, well, that doesn't matter. What matters is that I'm finally the girlfriend of the boy I like. She said, very happy. After what happened in the previous chapter, a few years had passed, and we can see 14-year-old Izuku and Toga walking in the park. Toga, hey Izuku-kun, shouldn't we get ready for the UA entrance exam? She said with uncertainty. Izuku, honestly, I'm not worried. I know we'll get in, we're really strong. He said with a confident smile. Toga, speak for yourself, that wind quirk you copied from that villain years ago is really good. I still don't understand why he wanted to be a villain with such a great quirk, he could have been a great hero. She said while giving Izuku a playful smack for being overconfident. Izuku, I don't know either, honestly. I guess people have different aspirations. He said while rubbing his head. Toga, yeah, I guess, but let's go home. Tomorrow's the last day of classes, and we need to rest. She said while grabbing Izuku's hand and pulling him along. Izuku, yeah, but don't pull me, I can run by myself. He said while running alongside Toga. Time skip. We can see our favorite couple talking in the classroom, but they were interrupted by the teacher's arrival, so Toga had to go back to her seat as she was sitting on the green-haired boy's lap. Teacher, well, as you all know, today is the last day of classes, so everyone needs to decide what they're going to study from now on. He said while holding some pamphlets. All the students didn't say anything and looked serious until the teacher spoke again. Teacher, but who am I kidding? Everyone wants to be great heroes. He said while throwing away the pamphlets he had. Everyone got excited and started using their quirks except for 3 people until one of them spoke. Bakugo, teacher, don't put me in the same category as these extras, I'm the only one with the potential to be a hero. This provoked the anger of the other students, and they started calling him arrogant and annoying. Teacher, alright, calm down, and Bakugo, you wanted to get into UA, right? He said while checking some papers. Extra, UA? The best hero school? He said surprised. Extra too, they say its acceptance rate is only 10%, he said equally surprised. Bakugo, that's why they're just extras, I'm the only one from this school who can get into UA, he said with his arrogant smile. Teacher, that's right, Midorilla and young Toga also want to get into UA, he said while still checking his papers. Extra 3, I think they can do it, they're the best in the school. He said while looking at the couple. Extra 2, yeah, and Izuku is strong and handsome. He said while covering his face. Toga, hey, don't forget that Izu-kun is my boyfriend. She said while looking at the extra with superiority. Izuku was about to speak, but he was interrupted by a shout. Bakugo, damn DEKU, how dare you go to the same academy as me? He said while generating explosions in his hands. Izuku, well, I want to be a hero, and UA is the best option. He said calmly. Bakugo just got angrier and tried to attack Izuku, but he couldn't because Izuku created a shield with the air. Bakugo, damn nerd, deactivate your damn shield. He said while still making explosions. Teacher, Bakugo, sit down or I'll send you to the principal's office. He said while looking sternly at Bakugo. After those words, Bakugo calmed down and sat down while grumbling in anger. After classes, we can see our protagonist walking under a bridge while talking until a green blob tried to grab Toga because he thought she looked more vulnerable, but Toga easily dodged him. Blob, hey, cutie, don't run away, I just want to use your body. He said with a perverted look. Toga, ha ha ha, you don't know what you're getting into, and you're disgusting too. She said while laughing at the blob villain. Blob, damn brat, you'll see after escaping from the hero chasing me, but he didn't finish because in an instant, he was shot away by a strong gust of wind. Izuku, do what? Don't even think about touching my girlfriend. He said with a scowl. After that scene, Toga and Izuku collected the remains of the blob scattered all over the bridge. Toga, you know, Izu-kun, you didn't have to do this, I can take care of myself. She said while smiling at Izuku. Izuku, yeah, I know, but it made me mad the way he talked about you, Miko-chan. He said, returning the smile to Toga. Toga, oh, how sweet, for that. But she's interrupted by someone. All Might, alright, that's enough. Why? Because I'm here. But he stopped upon seeing the two kids enclosing the chasing villain. Izuku/Toga, oh, it's All Might, he's giving us an autograph. They said, pulling out notebooks. Of course, youngsters, but tell me, did you defeat that villain? He said while signing the notebooks. Toga, well, Izu-kun defeated him. She said with a smile as she received her notebook. Izuku, it was me, All Might. I hope it's okay that I used my quirk without permission. He said, also receiving his notebook. Well, normally I should take you to the police, but this time I'll turn a blind eye because it must have been in self-defense. He said with a smile. Izuki, thank you, All Might, and take this, it's the villain. He said, handing a bottle to All Might. After that scene, said goodbye and left with a great leap. Izuku, wow, he's strong, look how high he jumped just by leaping. He said, impressed. Toga, yeah, that's true, but I know you'll be better than him. She said, giving Izuku a kiss. Toga, that's for defending me, thank you, Izu-kun. She said, smiling. Izuku, hee, don't worry, you're my girlfriend, I'd give my life for you. He said, returning the smile. After that, Izuku and Toga continued on their way home until they heard an explosion, and out of curiosity, they approached to see and were surprised because it was the same villain that Izuku had defeated before. Izuku, isn't that the same villain from before? What's he doing here? He said as he approached. Toga, I don't know, but look, he has a hostage. She said, equally surprised. The two, seeing the hostage, realized it was Bakugo, but before Toga could say anything, Izuku ran straight towards the villain. Hero 1, hey kid, stop, it's dangerous. He said, trying to stop Izuku. Toga, don't worry, Izu-kun is very strong, and he's the only one who can help. She said, calming the hero. With no other option, the heroes just stood and watched, analyzing what Izuku was doing. Blob, hey, it's you, the brat from before, now with this kid's quirk, I can get my revenge on you. He said angrily, while launching explosions at Izuku. Izuku didn't say anything and just shot a blast of air at the blob's eye, which disoriented the villain, and at that moment, Izuku took advantage of it, swiftly pulling Bakugo out of the blob. Izuku, alright, let's finish this. He said with a serious look. Izuku used his telekinesis quirk, leaving the blob unable to move. While he had the villain immobilized, he asked for a bottle to put the villain in. After trapping the villain in a bottle, he handed it over to the heroes who were amazed by the ability shown by the green-haired boy until one of them spoke. Hero 2, thank you, kid, but don't do it again, you don't have to put yourself in danger. He said, receiving the bottle. Hero 3, yes, kid, but putting that aside, you're incredible. I want you in my agency when you become a professional hero. He said, smiling. At that moment, everyone started praising the green-haired boy while he just got nervous, but Toga came to his rescue and dragged him away by the collar of his shirt. After that scene, we see Izuku and Toga walking home while talking until AM stopped them. AM, wait, young ones. He said as he stood in front of Izuku and Toga and made a strange pose. Izuku, oh, All Might, what are you doing? But he couldn't finish as he was surprised to see AM spitting blood and transforming into a fish lizard. Toga, hey, who are you? She said confused. AM, I am All Might, but this is my real form. He said as he wiped the blood. After that, AM told them everything about his injury, the time he can still be a hero, and his power. Izuku, so, you want me to be your successor? He said as he analyzed all the information. AM, exactly, young one, you have the conviction of a true hero, and I would like you to be my successor. He said, smiling. Izuku, I'm sorry, All Might, but I refuse. He said as he bowed. AM, why? He said confused because he thought he would accept. Izuku, wait, let me explain, All Might. If I want to have your power, I have another way to obtain it. He said as he scratched his cheek. AM, how, young one? He asked still confused. Izuku told him about his quirk and that it allowed him to permanently copy quirks. AM, wow, your quirk is amazing, young one, but unfortunately, OFA cannot be copied. He said with a serious face. Izuku, I think it can, my quirk is so powerful that I can even heal a person by restoring a lost limb. I could even heal your wound. He said proudly of his quirk. AM, I doubt it, but we have nothing to lose, let's try it. He said still with a serious face. That's how Izuku healed AM and copied OFA. AM, wow, it's amazing, young one, there's no trace of my injury left. He said with a smile, returning to his muscular form. Izuku, hee, thank you, AM, but we still need to check if I copied your quirk. He said with a smile. AM, yes, that's true, well, my quirk activates when I clench my buttocks and shout from the bottom of my heart smash. He said making a strange pose. Izuku and Toga were just with a sweat drop, anime style, but Izuku had an idea in mind and said. Izuku, well, I think I'll give it a try. He said as he prepared a punch. Toga, wait, let's go to the beach instead, if you activate AM's quirk here, you'll destroy everything. She said as she pulled Izuku's ear. After that, we can see Izuku in front of the sea while Toga and AM were behind him. Izuku, alright, here I go. He said as he delivered a mighty punch, shouting smash. When Izuku threw the punch, the sea split in two, impressing Toga and AM. Izuku, I did it. My quirk can copy any quirk. He said happily as he jumped. Toga, wait, Izuku-kun, look at your arm. She said, pointing to the green-haired boy's arm. Izuku turned to see his arm, and upon seeing it, he realized it was broken. AM, that's because of the power of OFA, but young man, doesn't it hurt? He said, concerned for the broccoli-haired boy. Izuku, don't worry, AM, I can heal myself, and besides, I'm not incapable of feeling pain. He said with a smile. AM, well, young man, I'll expect you here tomorrow at 7 AM to train you. He said smiling. Izuku, no thanks, AM, I already train alone, hee. I hope I'm not bothering you, but you can train Miko-chan, she really enjoys learning. He said as he pulled Toga in front of him. Toga, wait. She couldn't finish as AM interrupted her. AM, alright then, see you tomorrow, young Toga. He said with his characteristic smile. After that, AM left with a leap without waiting for Toga's response. Izuku, wow, he's gone. He said, looking at the spot where AM disappeared. Toga, Itsu-kun, she said as she walked towards Izuku with a smile but a sinister aura. Upon hearing Toga without turning back, Izuku just started running and praying for his life. Toga, who told you I liked getting up so early on vacation? She said, chasing after Izuku. Izuku, ha ha ha, it doesn't matter, Miko-chan, tomorrow you have training with AM, he said, teasing Toga. But in a mistake, Izuku tripped and fell to the ground. He was about to get up, but someone stopped him, and he heard a very intimidating voice. Toga, well, Izu-kun, so you think you're very funny, to make you stop, tomorrow you'll accompany me whether you want to or not. She said while a knife passed through her mouth, licking the blood she drew from Izuku. Izuku, hi, he said, shouting and very scared. Toga, alright then, let's go, we have to get up early tomorrow. She said as she headed towards her house. Izuku just followed Toga, and to calm himself down, he stole a kiss from Toga, which she easily reciprocated. The next morning, our favorite couple is seen heading to the beach very early to start their training. Izuku, hey Miko-chan, why do I have to go? I don't want to train. He said while yawning. Toga, well, tough luck, it's your fault after all. She said, also yawning. After the complaints from both young people, we can see them arriving at the beach near their house, but they were surprised because it was full of trash. Izuku, what happened to the beach? There used to be trash, but not this much. He said, surprised. Toga, yeah, a few years ago when you got the power of air, it wasn't so dirty. She said, equally surprised. They were walking along the beach, reflecting on how such a big beach could be full of trash, but they were interrupted by AM. Hi, young ones, how are you? He said as he walked towards them in his civilian form. Izuku, we're fine, AM, but what are we going to do on this beach? It's full of trash. He said, pointing at the trash. AM, that's going to be your training. He said, smiling a little. Toga, what? What are we going to do with all this trash, AM, she said, confused. AM, your training is to clean up this entire beach without using your quirk in the remaining 10 months until the UA entrance exam. He said, returning to his muscular form. Izuku, but why? We have good bodies and plenty of strength. He said with a proud smile. AM, you certainly have good bodies, but this training will be to improve your endurance. He said, striking one of his weird poses. Toga, I understand, but I would like to learn some kind of fighting or martial art. She said with a smile. AM, I understand. Well, I promise you something, if you finish cleaning the beach, I'll ask Gunhead, the hero who trained Uraka in the anime, to teach you his fighting style. He said, smiling. Toga, awesome, then let's get started. She said as she began to clean the beach. Izuku, yeah, he said, following Toga. After that, AM also gave them a training plan they had to follow. Time skip. After cleaning the beach, which they did in just 5 months, we can see our protagonists sitting on top of a big pile of trash, talking about Toga's training with Gunhead, but they were interrupted by a shout. AM, oh my goddess, you're amazing, young ones, you cleaned the whole beach in such a short time. He said, in his muscular form. Toga, yes, but now you have to keep your promise and bring Gunhead to train me. The blonde said, smiling. AM, yes, it's true, young Toga, and don't worry, I already asked Gunhead, and he said he had no problem. I'll take you to him tomorrow. He said, smiling. Toga, awesome, then Izu-kun, are you sure you don't want to come? She said, looking at her boyfriend. Izuku, yes, Miko-chan, I'll train my aerokinesis quirk here. I want to learn to fly. He said with a smile. Toga, well, Izu-kun, no problem. She said, smiling. AM, well, young ones, since you're done, you can leave. There's nothing else to do. He said, striking his weird poses. Izuku, don't worry, AM, we knew we'd finish today, so we brought our swimsuits and we're going to play in the water. He said as he took off his shirt. Toga, yeah, AM, see you later. I'm going to spend time with Izu-kun. She said as she went behind the trash pile to change. AM, haha, you two look like a couple. He said as he returned to his civilian form. Izuku, we're not just pretending, Miko-chan is my girlfriend. He said with a smile. She's also his stepsister since Inko adopted her years ago XD. After that little conversation, AM left, bidding farewell to the green-haired boy. Toga, I'm ready, Izu-kun. She said as she emerged from behind the trash. Izuku, yeah, let's go then. But he stopped talking when he saw Toga. Toga, how do I look? She said as she stood in front of Izuku. Toga, how do I look? She said as she stood in front of Izuku. Izuku, you look beautiful, Miko-chan. He said with a smile, snapping out of his trance. Toga, thanks, Izu-kun. She said with a big smile. After that, the young couple spent the whole afternoon playing on the beach to celebrate finishing their first training session. After that day, they both started their new training. Izuku trained his quirk because he wanted to learn to fly, and Toga trained her combat skills because she didn't want to always rely on Izuku's blood. Time skip. After training for 11 months, 5 months, the day finally came for the UA entrance exam. Izuku, Miko-chan, we have to go to the entrance exam now. He said as he waited for Toga. Toga, yes, I'm coming. She said as she came down from her room. Izuku, all right, let's go. Goodbye, Mom, we're leaving. He said as he looked at his mother. Inko, yes, goodbye Izuku, goodbye Himiko. Work hard and don't get overconfident. She said as she said goodbye to both of them. Toga, yes, and Inko, don't worry, we'll get in, you'll see. She said with a smile. They both went to UA in sportswear because they knew that besides a written exam, there would be a physical one too. Izuku. Toga. After that, everything happened as in the anime, except for the initial fall where he met Uraka, which didn't happen, and when Ida scolded him for talking to Toga, to which Izuku simply ignored, annoying Sonic's cousin. After that, everything happened as in the anime, except for the initial fall where he met Uraka, which didn't happen, and when Ida scolded him for talking to Toga, to which Izuku simply ignored, annoying Sonic's cousin. Fortunately, in the physical test, they were sent to the same field. Izuku, hey, Miko-chan, aren't you nervous? He said, looking at his girlfriend. Toga, no, Izu-kun, I'm very excited. We'll finally be able to become heroes. She said with a smile. Izuku, hee, I know, but I'm a little worried about that 0-point robot. He said, smiling. Toga, don't worry, we're strong, we can defeat it. She said as she kissed her boyfriend on the cheek. Izuku, yeah, you're right, but just to be safe, take some of my blood so if you have trouble, you can heal yourself or someone else in trouble. He said as he handed her a vial of his blood. Toga, well, but I'll only use it if I'm in big trouble. She said, pouting. After that scene, the doors opened, and they ran out, surprising the other participants. PM, present Mike, what are you waiting for? In a hero's life, there's no countdown. Run, or those two will take all the points. After that, all the contestants ran off like the wind. Returning to our couple, we can see them separating so their scores would be a surprise. In a dark room, some heroes can be seen discussing the students. Nezu, it seems we have a good crop this year. Any of them catch your eye? He said, looking at a screen. Cementos, I'm drawn to the boy with explosions. He said, also looking at the screen. Midnight, I like the girl with knives. She said, looking at the same screen. Aizawa, I'm interested in the boy who's flying. He said seriously, surprising the others. Nezu, well, that's rare for you. You hardly pay attention to anything, but let's see how he does with the 0 points. He said, looking at the green-haired boy. The other heroes also expressed their surprise and likewise focused on the green-haired boy. Returning to our green-haired boy, he had already destroyed several robots and currently had 141 points. Izuku, wow, this is very easy with the points I already have. I guess I've passed. I better see how Miko-chan is doing. He said, smiling. With Toga, it wasn't much different. She was destroying robots, cutting their circuits with her knife, and had 63 points. Toga, wow, this was harder than I thought. I think I'll use Izu-kun's quirk so I won't fall behind. She said, exhausted from having to use Izuku's quirk. Toga was about to drink Izuku's blood, but she was interrupted by a scream that startled her and made her spill the blood. Izuku, Miko-chan, how's it going? Have you scored many points? He asked, curious about his girlfriend's score. Toga, Izu-kun? Well, I was about to drink your blood to score more points, but you scared me, and I spilled the blood. She said with an intimidating smile. Izuku, sorry, Miko-chan, but if you want, you can make a wound on me. He said a little nervously. Toga, all right, but later, I'll punish you for scaring me. she said, pulling out one of her knives. After that, Toga drank Izuku's blood and was about to leave, but she was stopped by a strong tremor that surprised them both. Izuku, what was that? The green-haired boy said, filled with doubt. Toga, look, Izu-kun, it's that giant robot, she said, pointing behind. Izuku, wow, it's huge. Where did they get so much money? He said, astonished. Toga, I don't know, but it's best if we leave before it squashes us, she said as she walked backward. Izuku was about to leave too, but he heard a cry for help that stopped him. Toga, don't even think about it, Izuku. Midorilla is dangerous, she said, looking at the green-haired boy. Izuku didn't say anything and just started running. Toga, wow, he's already gone, but that's what I like about him, she said with a smile as she followed the green-haired boy. Meanwhile, Izuku, seeing that the robot was about to step on a girl who seemed to be trapped under some debris, simply started flying straight towards the robot. Meanwhile, Toga freed the girl from the debris and started healing her. Toga, Izu-kun, if you don't destroy that thing with one hit, I'm going to hit you so hard you'll feel it, got it? She shouted at the green-haired boy. Izuku just swallowed nervously and, with fear, decided to use Ofa and shouted. Izuku, smash, he said, delivering a blow to the robot's head. The robot's head exploded from the powerful blow, and its body fell backward. Izuku, I did it, Miko-chan, I destroyed it in one hit, he said, still nervous. Toga, well, you saved yourself this time, she said, approaching Izuku. Girl, thank you for saving me, she said nervously, as she saw two Azukas. But the girl was surprised when she saw Toga stabbing Izuku with a knife. Girl, wait, why are you hurting him if you said he saved you? She asked, worried. Toga, well, I need his blood to maintain this appearance, or I'll revert back, and I'll be naked, she said as she drank the green-haired boy's blood. Izuku, hee, don't worry, I'm unable to feel pain, he said with a smile. The girl just analyzed the situation and was about to speak, but she was interrupted by an elderly woman. Recovery girl, hey kids, are you okay? She asked, concerned because Izuku was bleeding heavily from his chest. Izuku, yes, don't worry, recovery girl, I can heal myself, he said, healing the wound. Recovery girl, so you know me, and your quirk is good. I think you'll be a great hero, she said, surprised by Izuku's quirk. Izuku, hee, thank you, he said with a smile. Toga, let's go, Izu-kun, or else I'll have to drink your blood again to stay transformed, she said, smiling. Izuku, yeah, I'm coming, he said as he left, not without saying goodbye to the girl and recovery girl. Izuku and Toga were already at home talking. Izuku, well then, on the count of 3, we'll say our points to see who scored more, he said with a serious face. Toga, all right, she said, equally serious. Izuku/Toga, 1, 2 and 3. They said, almost shouting. Izuku/Toga, 141-63. They said, now speaking calmly. Izuku, ha, I won, he said, standing up and laughing proudly. Toga, I lost, she said, looking down. Izuku, ha, don't worry, Miko-chan, the exam was tough, and you couldn't showcase your close combat skills, he said, consoling the blonde. Toga, you're right, but still, I lost, she said, now looking at Izuku. Izuku, well, we just have to wait a week to see if we got in, though I have no doubt that we did, he said with a smile. Toga, yeah, I believe so too, she said, equally smiling. Time skip. A week had passed since they took the entrance exam. Izuku, it's been a week already, our results should arrive today, he said impatiently. Toga, yeah, they should arrive today. But she was interrupted because someone knocked on the door. Izuku went to open the door and found the mailman. Mailman, excuse me, I'm looking for young Izuku Midorilla and Miss Himiko Toga, he said, reading from a paper. Izuku, yes, that's me and my girlfriend, he said, looking at the mailman. Mailman, well, then, here you go, he said, handing over the letters. Izuku, thank you, he said with a smile. Mailman, if I'm not mistaken, these are from UA. Good luck, I hope you get in, he said with a smile. Izuku, hee, thanks, he said, bidding farewell to the mailman and closing the door. Toga, Izu-kun, who was it? She asked, with uncertainty. Izuku, The mailman brought letters from UA, he said, showing the letters. Toga, awesome, let's see mine first, we already know my score anyway. She said with a smile. Izuku just smiled and opened Toga's letter. Inside was a disc which triggered a hologram of AM. Haha, it's me, and I'm in a hologram to inform Miss Toga of her score in the entrance exam. But he was interrupted by someone telling him to get to the point. Well, getting to the point, Miss Toga, you scored 85 points in the written exam and 90 points in the practical exam. You might wonder why. Well, you earned 63 points for attack, but that wasn't all. By healing your teammate, you earned 27 rescue points. Come on, young one, this is your hero school. He said with a smile as the hologram deactivated. Izuku, wow, that's great, Miko-chan, you got in, he said with a smile. Toga, yeah, but well, let's see yours. She said, equally smiling. Now Toga opened Izuku's letter, and just like hers, a hologram appeared, but this time it was me, delivering the news. Nezu, hello, young Midorilla, I'm the director of UA, and I suppose you already know why this hologram is here. In the written exam, you scored 76 points, and in the practical, 200 points. But if what AM told me is correct, you already know why, so I'll skip the explanation and just tell you that UA awaits you with open arms. He said with a smile as the hologram faded. Izuku, well, we got in. He said as he hugged Toga. Toga, yeah, she said, accepting the hug. After that, they told Inko, who congratulated them and said she was proud. After the events of the previous chapter, we see our main characters having breakfast and chatting. Izuku, hey Miko-chan, what do you think about UA? He said while eating. Toga, I don't know, but I'm sure all the teachers are heroes. She said, also eating. Izuku, you're right. I wonder who our teacher will be. He said, finishing his meal. Toga, I wonder too. I just hope it's not midnight. She said, finishing as well. Izuku, why? He asked, puzzled. Toga, because she's very rude, always in that tight outfit. She said, getting up from the table. Izuku, I think her outfit is cool. He said, imagining midnight. Toga just threw a knife at him, looking threateningly. Izuku, I mean, her outfit is really tight, she should change it. He said, sweating. After that, they each went to their rooms to change into their UA uniforms. Toga, Izu-kun, I'm ready, let's go or we'll be late, she shouted to the green-haired boy. Izuku, yeah, coming, Miko-chan. I just need to find my tie. He said, coming down from his room. Izuku finished adjusting his tie and went to the door, where he saw Toga. Izuku, wow, Miko-chan, the uniform looks great on you, but the skirt is a bit short for me. He said with a smile but a slightly jealous tone. Toga, haha, seems like someone's jealous. She teased him. Izuku, no, it's just that I thought, but he was interrupted by a kiss from Toga. Toga, don't worry about that anymore, I'm yours. She said with a smile and a mischievous tone. Izuku just blushed and looked down to hide his embarrassment, taking Toga's hand and leaving the house to go to UA. Izuku and Toga had already arrived at UA, but they encountered a problem, they didn't know where their classroom was. After searching for several minutes, they finally found it. Izuku, finally. So this is going to be our classroom. He said, looking at the door in front of him. Toga, yeah, but it's really big. Maybe it's for the mutation quirks? She said, analyzing the door. Izuku, yeah, but let's go in. I don't think the teacher has arrived yet. He said, opening the door. When they opened the door, they saw Bakugo fighting with a boy with glasses and blue hair. Ida, hey, put your feet down, it's disrespectful to the one who made the desk and to the heroes who studied here before. He said, making robotic movements. Bakugo, huh? Who do you think you are, Mr. Literal Character? He said with his usual demeanor. Ida, I'm Tenya Ida from Jorge Washington Private School. He said, standing still. Bakugo, so, you're a darn elite. I'll enjoy tearing you down. He said, explosions crackling in his hands. Ida, tear me down? Are you sure you want to be a hero? He said, uncertain. After those words, they both noticed our protagonists at the door. Bakugo just clicked his tongue, but Ida walked towards them. Ida, hello, I'm Tenya too, but he was interrupted by Izuku. Izuku, yeah, we heard you when we came in, you're Tenya Ida from Jorge Washington School. He said with a smile. Ida, yes, I wanted to apologize for how I treated you during the explanation President Mike was giving. He said, bowing. Izuku, don't worry, it doesn't bother me. He said, waving his hands. Ida, thanks, but you figured out the purpose of the exam, even though it's hard for me to admit it, you're better than me. He said, adjusting his glasses. Izuku, honestly, I didn't know anything, but he was interrupted. Uraka, oh, you're the guy who destroyed the giant robot, thanks for saving me. She said, approaching the green-haired boy. Izuku, yeah, no problem. He said, stepping back a bit from the brown-haired girl. Toga, what's your name? She said to the brown-haired girl, standing next to Izuku. Uraka, hi, I'm Ochako Uraka. She said with a smile. Toga was about to introduce herself but was interrupted by Aizawa. Aizawa, if you're here to make friends, leave. He said, with a bored look. Everyone went to sit down, and when they were finally quiet, Aizawa spoke again. Aizawa, well, my name is Shota Aizawa, and I'll be your homeroom teacher for these 3 years. I know it's sudden, but put these on and go to the courtyard. He said, pointing to various uniforms. After those words, we see everyone in the courtyard, and Izuku was looking for Toga. Izuku, Miko-chan, where are you? He said, searching for Toga. Toga, here, Izu-kun. She said, raising her hand. Izuku went to where Toga had raised her hand and upon seeing her, he said. Izuku, I like this uniform better. He said, looking at Toga. Toga, haha, me too, it's more comfortable, but not cute. She said with a smile. Aizawa, well, you're going to do a quirk apprehension test. He said in a bored tone. After that, Aizawa called Bakugo, saying. Aizawa, you ranked 3rd in the admission test, what was your throwing score at school? He said, handing Bakugo a ball. Bakugo, 3rd? TSK. My score was 65 meters, he said, annoyed at not being 3rd. Aizawa, alright, you're going to throw it again, but this time with your quirk. He said, in his disinterested tone. Bakugo just threw the ball while shouting shiny. Aizawa, alright, it's 705 meters, he said, looking at a device similar to a cell phone. Mina, wow, we can use our quirks, this will be fun. She said, jumping. Aizawa, fun, huh? Let's make it more fun, the one who comes last will be expelled. He said, smiling. All the students protested except for 5 people, they said he couldn't do that and that it was unfair. Aizawa, unfair? Unfairness is what's out there, we don't need heroes without potential, so get used to it, this is UA's hero course. He said with a maniacal smile. After those words, all the students remained silent. Izuku, Miko-chan, do you think he'll really expel the last one? He whispered. Toga, I think so. I looked into him before, and I think his hero name is Eraserhead, and according to records, last year he expelled an entire class. She said, looking at her phone. Izuku, haha, I don't know what's more surprising, the expulsion of a whole class or your research in less than 10 minutes. He said, petting Toga's head. Toga just blushed and lowered her head for Izuku to continue petting her. That's how the quirk tests began. 50 meters Izuku raced against Bakugo. Izuku, good luck Bakugo. He said mockingly. Bakugo, shut up, DEKU, I'm going to kill you. He said angrily. Aizawa, 1 2 3. Go, he said, blowing a whistle. Bakugo ran, propelled by his explosions, but a gust of wind passed beside him, and before he knew it, Izuku had already finished the race. Aizawa, Midoriya, 2 seconds, Bakugo, 4.13 seconds, he said, checking his cell phone again. Bakugo, damn DEKU, how dare you surpass me? He said, exploding, but he couldn't move because Izuku activated his telekinesis quirk and immobilized Bakugo. Izuku, it's not my fault I'm better than you, he said mockingly. Aizawa, Bakugo, calm down, or I'll expel you, and you, Midoriya, deactivate your quirk. He said, with an intimidating look. After that, Izuku went to where Toga was and wished her luck because her race was next. Toga, thanks, Izu-kun. She said as she headed to the track. Strength test here, Izuku used his telekinesis quirk to break the machine. Kaminari, wow, Midoriya, that's amazing. He said, amazed by what Izuku had done. Long jump in this test, Izuku flew through, surprising almost everyone. Kaminari, how many quirks does he have? He said, surprised. Toga, well, for now, he has 5, but if he wanted, he could have more. She said with a smile. Everyone, what? How is it possible to have more than one quirk? They said with their mouths agape. Aizawa, who had heard this, was also surprised but didn't show it. Lateral jumps in this test, Izuku didn't stand out much because he didn't know how one of his quirks could help him. Mineta, haha, I'm the best at this test, take that Midoriya. He said, proudly smiling. Izuku just ignored him and went to Toga. Ball throw in this test, Izuku was only going to use his aerokinesis quirk, but it didn't work, and the ball only fell at 75 meters. Izuku, what? I'm sure I tried to use my quirk. He said, looking at his hand. Aizawa, I erased your quirk. This test is to show your maximum potential, not to have fun and play around. Show me everything you can do, or you'll be expelled. He said, looking him in the eyes, intimidatingly. Toga just looked at Izuku before smiling. Aoyama, hey, aren't you worried about your boyfriend? That was a direct threat. He said, looking at the blonde girl. Toga, not at all. I know what Izu-kun is capable of, Eraserhead Sensei is going to be impressed. She said, smiling. Everyone fell silent at Toga's words, then they focused their gazes on the green-haired boy. Izuku, alright, I'll do it, Aizawa Sensei, or should I say, Eraserhead, the eraser hero. He said with a smile. Izuku activated One for All and threw the ball, then propelled it with his aerokinesis quirk. Aizawa, it's a shame, but you're expelled. Even if you have multiple quirks, if you use the strongest one and then become incapacitated, you're not fit to be a hero. Izuku, huh? I can still go on, I'm not even injured. He said, smiling mockingly. Izuku doesn't respect Aizawa. Aizawa, noticing Izuku, realized it was true and only managed to ask how. Izuku, it's easy. My original quirk allows me to heal myself or someone else. It's an amazing quirk, it can even regenerate a limb. That's why I named it Hands of God. He said proudly. Aizawa just stood still, thinking, this kid is astounding. When he reached his classmates, he was bombarded with questions about how he has multiple quirks. They didn't hear the conversation Izuku had with Aizawa. Izuku just ignored them and went to Toga, but he was greeted with a punch. Izuku, ouch. Why was that? He said, feigning pain. Toga, for being disrespectful to your teacher. I heard your conversation, and it's a great name. She said, the last part whispered. Izuku, hee, thanks. He said with a smile. After that conversation, everyone was called by Aizawa and lined up horizontally. Aizawa, alright, here are your scores. He said, bringing up a hologram. Scores, Midoriya Izuku, Bakugo Katsuki, Todoroki Shoto, Shato U, Yaoyorosu Momo, Toga Himiko, Minoru Mineta, Hagakure Toru. Mineta, phew, I'm safe. He said, wiping his sweat. Toru, no, I couldn't make friends with anyone. She said with a depressed aura. Aizawa, by the way, the expulsion thing was a lie. Also, Midoriya, I should expel you for your behavior, but I won't because you have more potential than anyone else. He said as he got into his sleeping bag. Everyone fell silent, then shouted, what? They said in unison. Momo, it was obvious, even though he's our teacher, he can't expel anyone on the first day. She said, smiling as if she had discovered America. Izuku, well, you're wrong. Miko-chan, tell her. He said with a mocking smile. Toga, well, Eraserhead Sensei, according to records from last year, expelled his entire class at the beginning of the year for not having potential. She said, looking at her phone. Aizawa, wow, girl, you surprise me, but don't call me Oruga. He said with an intimidating look at Toga, but she didn't flinch. Aizawa, well, it's true, I expelled my class last year, but don't get too excited. It's not like you have great potential, it's just that your potential isn't zero. He said, leaving. Izuku, haha, you see, Miko-chan? It's awesome. I researched all of that while Oruga-sensei was explaining what these quirk practices were all about. After that, everyone went to their class, and everything went normally until dismissal. Our couple can be seen walking out of the academy while conversing until they're interrupted by Uraka. Uraka, hey! Are you guys heading to the train station? Can I join you? She said with a smile. Izuku, you're Uraka, right? Of course, you can join us. He said, equally smiling. Uraka, great. But she was interrupted. Ida, can I join you too? He said, doing his robot movements. Izuku, sure, the more, the merrier. He said with a smile. Toga, that's true, but Uraka, don't get too close to Izuku. She said with a smile. Izuku, hee, jealous? He teased Toga. Toga, not at all. She said, avoiding eye contact. Uraka, I still have a question. What are you to Deku-kun? She said with uncertainty. Izuku, Deku-kun? He said, puzzled. Uraka, the explosion-haired boy calls you that, I thought it was a nickname. She said, tapping her chin. Izuku, in a way, yes, but he uses it to call me useless. He said with a smile. Ida, and why is that? From what I saw, you're much more efficient than him. He said, uncertainly. Toga, I can answer that he. Izuku's quirk hadn't awakened at the age of 4, and Bakugo thought Izuku didn't have one. That's why he gave him that nickname, but I changed its meaning. She said with a smile. Uraka, wow, I thought of a different meaning, I guess it's the same, you can do it, right? She said with uncertainty. Toga, yes, exactly. She said with a smile. Izuku, well, you can call me Deku. That nickname reminds me of when Miko-chan was a little girl. He said with a smile. Uraka, that's cute, but you still haven't answered my question, Toga-chan. What are you to Deku-kun? She said with a smile. Toga, that's obvious, Izu-kun is my boyfriend. She said, smiling. Ida, that's surprising, but relationships are prohibited at the academy. He said, adjusting his glasses. Izuku, I don't care. We've been together for years, and we're not going to stop just because we're at UA, he said with a smile. Ida, years? He said, surprised. Toga, yes, and I also live in the same house as Izu-kun. She said with a smile. Uraka, how? Did your parents give you permission? She said, equally surprised. Izuku, that's a secret. He said as he boarded the train. Toga, well, goodbye. She said, bidding farewell to them as they took different trains. Uraka and Ida, goodbye to both of you. They said in unison. After that, Toga and Izuku arrived home, told everything to Inko, but she hit Izuku. Izuku, let me guess, that's for disrespecting my teacher, right? He said with a smile. Inko, exactly, and from now on, you're going to respect him. She said, intimidatingly. Toga, I told you so, Izu-kun. She said, smiling. After that, our protagonists went to sleep to prepare for the next day.